2 home games, no defeats. Is that progress? Copenhagen, 4-0, glorious. Van de Ven's goal, ridiculous. Simmons, brilliant. It's a shame so many people missed it. Then came United, the most Spursy 90 minutes imaginable, losing until the 84th minute, going ahead in the 92nd, yet somehow drawing against 10 as we stood like statues. Richarlison's celebration was straight out of The Idiot's Guide to Hubris. Our centre-half, just defensive midfielder and out-of-sorts winger are our best finishers. Are we an upside-down football team? We'll ask that question. Thomas Frank was booed for his substitutions, but he got them right. Or did he? Should he have started with Tell and Odobert? Arsenal loom on the horizon, but it's another pointless international break first, so we can relax for a bit, can't we? Buckle up, Spurs fans. It's Nice One Cyril. Nice One Cyril. So welcome to Nice One Cyril. With me today we have Spurs doyen Julie Welch. Kevin Acott is here to cast joy and loveliness everywhere. And of course, microbiologist, whatever the fuck that is, Dave Bradshaw. Welcome back, Dave. Lovely to have you back on the show. So let's get cracking, shall we? Julie, Copenhagen. 4-0. That was signs, finally, of life in the attacking department. Did you enjoy the game?
Yes, I did. I mean, how could you not enjoy the game? It seems to be an awful long time since Spurs have won 4-0 in a canter, or in the case of Micky van de Ven, an easy sort of jog with which he outpaced everybody chasing him. That goal will just stick in my memory. It was fantastic. The only thing I will say is some people were saying the goal was Son-esque, whereas I would say it was Bale-esque. And maybe there's some about that, but it really reminded me of Gareth Bale storming down the wing against Inter back in the day. And I think that in Micky van de Ven, maybe we have a kind of Bale Mark II, but that's up for debate.
Well, we'll talk about the goal in a bit more detail. First, Kev, it was a decent performance, wasn't it? And we had Simmons looking like he's adjusting to the physicality of playing for Spurs, and he looked good. Odobert looked decent. What was your take on the game?
Absolutely. I mean, and I came away thinking this is hopefully the start. This is the start of a shift into, the next bit of the Frank era, which is starting to play as a team. And Simmons felt like the key to that, I think. It's funny because I was thinking about the match earlier, and in my head I had 3 of the goals, and I thought, what was the fourth one? Who was the fourth one? It was Micky's one. So somehow, this is what happens, I think, when you get to a certain age. I'd actually blocked that out. And I'd actually said to my daughter there, you will always remember that goal. And I think we will always remember, but even someone far younger than us will always remember that goal. It's going to be one of the magical goals.
This is what it's about, isn't it? It's creating those memories, because we have enough crap to put up with. And then suddenly here's this shining jewel in the desert. And it was so gorgeous. And when he picked the ball up and it was right on the edge of our own area, I just muttered to, sort of generally, go on, Micky, all the way. Go on, all the way. But I wasn't being serious. I mean, and I kept saying all the way. And then suddenly he got clear. And the first thought was, well, no one's catching him. It's just whether he can finish. And the finish was that of a forward. It was so composed. He looked up and he fooled the goalkeeper, possibly with his eyes, and slipped it inside the near post. Dave, overall a good performance, but that goal was
supernatural. I think that's why Kev didn't remember it. It was like something from another dimension, wasn't it? Absolutely insane. I think it was. I watched it back a few times. I think you'd said on Twitter you were going to just stick to the 250 times.
That's right. Yeah,
I watched it back a few times. I think 11 touches from including the shot, including the one that hits the back of the net to cover his. Julie, you said 67 yards, was it?
I've got, if you don't mind me reading it out, He ran 67.7 metres with the ball, which is the longest goal-ending carry by any player in Opta's record books in a Champions League game since 2015-16, which actually is no time at all, overtaking Vinicius Junior's 64.9 metres run to score for Real Madrid against Borussia Dortmund in October 2024. So that's a nice load of stats for you.
Thing about it, Julie, it wasn't just his speed. We know he's got the phenomenal speed.
No, of course it wasn't.
It was the touches. There was a dribble going on at the kind of Usain Bolt speed, where he's having to assess who's around him, who he needs to get past, and making those touches and swerves and feints, and then getting himself clear to shoot. That was extraordinary.
Well, yes, and the shot itself, the scoring shot, it was just finesse right at the end. You know, he'd thundered through the middle at top speed, and then it was as though he was just sort of saying to the keeper, now I'll show you what else I can do. And, you know, it was just such a sort of well-aimed shot. It wasn't crazy or anything like that. It wasn't a sort of never going to be a Rosetta. It was the finesse at the end was fantastic.
He actually slowed himself down, didn't he? Just momentarily, and calmed himself, ready to place that shot. Kev, I mean, I don't normally listen to other football podcasts because obviously there's only one football podcast, but I was listening to another football podcast and they were slightly demeaning that goal by saying, yeah, well, you know, Copenhagen are shit and the defenders weren't interested and, you know, all he had to do was run. And I'm thinking to myself, can you imagine belittling a goal of that magnitude with, you know, as I was saying earlier, the speed of it is one thing, but the control, the touches.
I find that unbelievable that, you know, of course, Copenhagen were the ideal team for us to play. We needed that. We haven't, as it turns out, built on it. But, you know, they're not great, but they're professional footballers. They're in the Champions League. Of course they wanted to take the ball off him. Of course they wanted to stop him. And they couldn't. And I can't imagine there's many defenders or many players that would have been able to. I think whoever he was playing at that point, you know, he'd have got through, and that shot was that shot. You know, no goalkeeper was going to stop it. So I think it is just that sort of Spursy negativity that's, you know, which obviously we all have to a certain degree, but to belittle that goal is absurd. It really is.
And to settle the game as well, Simon. To settle the game after Brennan's sending off as well. I mean, just to put the game away. That was very unspursy.
It was very unspursy. Moving on from that extraordinary finish. Kev, you sent a message on our Nice One Cyril WhatsApp group. After Brennan got sent off, we were 2-0 up, and then down went Vicario. And you said, oh, this is so Spurs, isn't it? You know, we're just going to blow it now, having established complete control. But actually, I wonder whether what was happening there was he was going down tactically in order to take on some instructions from the bench, given that we were down to 10 men.
Yeah. I think that is, I hadn't even considered that at all at the time. You know, I just thought, yeah, because I'm quite naive and I think everyone does everything properly by the rules if they play for us. I mean, that's not true of any other club, but if they play for us, then they stick to the rule.
Yeah, Darren Fletcher on the TNT commentary said that he got a text message from another manager saying that Vicario, that was definitely completely a tactical move from Vicario. He literally, and he was then, I can't believe I've been taken in by that when he felt he should have spotted it.
Yeah. We've, you know, Julie's been giving Vicario quite a lot of stick on the podcast, whereas Kevin and I have obviously been 100% positive about him. But he's had his moment, hasn't he, over the last few games, Julie? He's played well for a start, and he's made some fantastic saves. He actually caught some crosses, didn't he, against Copenhagen? Didn't catch any against Man United, I noted, but I don't know. I suppose it was just a bit easier, was it, to catch them against a sort of third-rate Danish team?
I'm saying nothing about Copenhagen, nothing negative at all. You know, they were at the top of their game. Denmark's answer to Real Madrid. So whatever Vicario did, you know, it was a masterwork. Wasn't quite so sure about him against United. There were moments when I was thinking, oh, just, you know, give Kinski another chance, because actually I'm not completely sure about Kinski now either. What do we think about Kinski?
He had a shaky one, didn't he? Dave, let me ask you about this, because just briefly before we move on to the Man U game. I was looking around me in the stadium against Copenhagen, and loads of empty seats, particularly in the higher tiers. Lots of complaints about ticket pricing and the categorization, that's the word, of the game by the club. That seems to something they seem to be remedying now for the next game. Disappointing, isn't it, really, when you see so many seats empty?
It is, although the atmosphere came across, I was watching on TV, and the atmosphere came across really kind of well on that night, I guess, under the lights, and we played well, I guess, throughout. So the atmosphere didn't seem to suffer, but at least that was the impression on TV. But you guys were there. So maybe
I always turn my hearing aids off when I go to Spurs, because I don't want to listen to the idiots around me. So I don't know. It could have been the noisiest match of all time. But let's move on to Man U. Kev, I think the general consensus has been we were slightly better than we have been. We didn't lose, and then of course we threw it away. Some good performances though, weren't there? I think Simmons, would you say he looked as though, you know, I said he was certainly coming to terms with the physicality against Copenhagen. I thought he really did that against United.
He did. You know, it felt like he was continuing and was developing from the Copenhagen game. I think we've talked about booing before. I don't boo, but I wanted to boo Frank when he took him off. I think that didn't make sense. Partly because we don't have anything else creative in midfield, and they're not very good, United, are they? And they were there for the taking, really. Turns out that maybe Frank knows more than I do about football.
I don't think so, Kev. With all due respect to Thomas, I think you outstrip him in that department. I mean, Julie, we got a message, didn't we, on our WhatsApp group from Lee of this parish, and Lee said when those subs were made, that, well, that's that, isn't it? Because we've got no game changers off the bench. Typically, Tell scored and Odegaard was involved in both goals. They really did. I've still got my reservations about Tell, but that was kind of a Gerd Muller goal. You know what I mean? It was receive it, turn, thrash it.
I think that Tell is probably going to be a really good player for us. I mean, and I did think so even last season when he came in on loan. I definitely think he's got something. I think he's got a lovely attitude. He really, really wants to be part of this. I think he's going to be terrific. And I think that Odegaard is sort of shaping up very nicely as well. And I think Tell and Odegaard are, you know, two players to feel very optimistic about. We need something to feel optimistic about, especially with the news about Mwani of the fractured jaw, the sheriff of fractured jaw. Yeah, I just want a little preen here, because I did tip Richy to score yesterday, and a lot of people sort of reminded me that I'm really drugged up at the moment on cocaine, my dodgy knee, and maybe shouldn't be listened to. But, you know, bless him, he scored, he did that lovely celebration, and why wouldn't you take your shirt off? I know that some people were very annoyed about it. Some people found it obnoxious and disgusting. Actually, I can see various heads nodding here, but I thought it was brilliant. you know what's not to like? Richy flashing his knockers, fantastic, lovely.
I think we've got the title of the episode: Richy flashing his knockers. So let's move on from Richy. Well, actually, I tell you what, we'll come back to Richy. I've got reservations, Dave, about two players. I don't know if will you take one of these on, and then perhaps we'll go to Kev about the other, because I know he shares my reservation. So I've got reservation about Sarr. Okay, now Sarr sometimes looked like a complete midfielder. The running, the tackling, he can finish, he can pass pretty well, and sometimes he looks so absolutely ordinary. And I don't think this is about form. It's about, is he really the real deal? Or is he a bloke who occasionally has a stunning game and you think, wow, he's brilliant, and then the rest of it is really a bit kind of underwhelming.
I'm probably a bit of a fanboy, probably of all of them. Actually, I was going to just go back to Richy just briefly, because I still love Richy, really. I do
Why?
love him a bit like, well, he tries so bloody hard. You know, I'm reminded of the Blackadder sketch with General Melchett talking to Darling and talking about his I love you like a son, not a favourite son, like some sort of backstairs sprog or whatever, that sort of thing. So but Richy, I can't help like him, but I'm really, really keen on. I mean, I'm definitely a proper fanboy of Sarr, and
Okay.
I think in a midfield that's more on the front foot, I think Sarr will really shine, and I think as Simmons, hopefully, and then we get Maddison and Kulu back and all that kind of stuff. I think if we start to be on the front foot, I think Sarr will flourish, because I think the gaps will open up for him. And I think at the moment he's probably trying to do too many things at once, maybe.
Yeah.
I
think that's a good point, actually. It depends how we're playing, doesn't it? Whether as to his relative effectiveness. Well, let's move on to the other player who's really pissing me off at the moment. And I hate being pissed off with any of our players, but Kev, and we talked about this, didn't we, during the match, Porro, he is really getting on my tits in a way that what irritates me even more than anything about Porro is he's that guy going up to the crowd and giving it some, come on. He's doing the waving and he's punching this chest and he's kissing the badge. And I feel that's a hedge against getting dropped, because he makes himself too loved by the crowd. His performance, against United, he did not find a white shirt.
He's done some good things in his time with us, but he's never consistently good, I don't think. I think he's iffy at the back, and although he can be good, he's also iffy up front. His crossing can be really poor. His passing generally can be really poor. He feels he's one of the key players. I don't think he is. I think if he were, I don't mean this like it sounds, if he were injured, there's probably 9 or 10 other players I would, be less upset about being injured. If we took him out,
Yeah,
I didn't put that very nicely, but if we took him out, it wouldn't have a big impact on the team. I don't think.
It's interesting you say that, because he went down, didn't he, in the second half, and I suddenly got hopeful, and that's not the way I want to feel. Maybe he's going off. Maybe we can shift Spence over there, and Julie. This is a thing that I've been going on about a bit. I think Udogie is much better than Spence at left back for lots of reasons, not least because he can go outside and he's an effective winger, auxiliary winger, and he defends pretty well. He's a monster. He's fast. I think Spence is much better than Porro at right back because he's fast. He's everything Udogie is on the other side, and everything Porro, to me, isn't. Where do you stand on fullbacks?
Porro, to me, is a bit of a K-Tel Graham Roberts. Are you old enough to remember K-Tel?
Yeah, of course.
He's got all the front that Roberts had, but he hasn't quite got the talent. And also, I think, I agree with you, I think Udogie and Odobert on the left are just, monstrous, fantastic, needs to be pursued. And yeah, Spence on the other side. What's not to like? Porro, anyway, I think needs a rest because, he's been more or less solid since the start of the Ange era. I remember him coming in. I'm that old. There was talk that he might be world class, and I just don't see that at all.
You can see he's a footballer, right? You can see he can play. He's got touch. When he's on his game, he can pass. He can cross beautifully. He's got a good shot on him. But I just feel like the sum of the parts is fuck all, really. Dave, let's move on a little bit from giving our players stick. Apparently, we had, and this is Kev's our statistician, as you know. He knows every fact, every figure. He's like extraordinary. He can just conjure them up when he needs them. But he told me today that we had the fewest touches in the opposition's penalty area in the first half, I think, for 10 years. Is that right, Kev?
For 10 years, yeah. In the first half against Man United, we had fewer touches than any other game in the last 10 years.
So that's an extraordinary, especially given the fact I thought we weren't playing that badly. I didn't notice that. And it just seemed, Dave, that's worrying, isn't it? Even though we've got no centre forward. I'm going to come on to Richarlison, and I need to upbraid you on that about your Richarlison,
Fetish.
admiration.
Fetish.
But yes, it's a fetish. But that is worrying, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I must admit these stats drive me up the wall a bit. Actually, I've never ever seen a game where the XG matches anything like either the score or my perception of the game. I've never ever seen it. But actually, the one that I was thinking of, and I don't know whether now's maybe the time to bring it in, but I think we're missing a stat. We should be X injuries. This is Spurs. This is something where we could really lead the world.
Yes,
because we are exceeding. I mean, even since I kind of sent that through to you, Muani is obliged with how did he do this draw? Was that against Man United, or was he putting the toast down at home or something?
Yeah. It's another blow, isn't it? And also, not least, because I thought Muani, Dave, I thought he was starting to show things.
Go, yeah.
I mean, I love his speed and the way he's running at people. It's been suggested, I think, again by Lee on our WhatsApp group, Julie, that we ought to just cut and run now with Muani. He's only a loan signing, and get Tony in from whatever vile Middle Eastern country he's playing in right now. What's your feeling about getting Tony in?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, let me he's definitely a wrong un,
okay.
I think. But as other people on this parish have stated, he's a good wrong un. Now, where that kind of fits in with Thomas Frank's no dickheads policy, I don't know. Is Tony a wrong un but not a dickhead? That could make all the difference. The thing that you have to bear in mind, I suppose, is that he's old. He's gnarled with experience. He knows where the goal is. He can bang him in. Once you get off the moral high ground and try and get him back from wherever he is in the desert.
Yeah, I mean, well, Frank knows him, of course, and he's tolerated him for a longish period and praised him to the gunnels. He's obviously a good footballer and a bloke who can finish. I worry a bit, Kev, Julie calls him a wrong, and I think he's a bloke who's got a very high opinion of himself. As long as he's not disruptive, and Frank will know whether he is or he isn't, then, I know this is all the most specious, pointless speculation, of course, but would he be the bloke you'd be looking at in January?
Yes. I don't know. I mean, the whole wrong and dickhead thing it's a tricky choice to make, isn't it? Which one he is, but I think as long as he's not disruptive, absolutely, then we need someone like him. We really do. I'd actually be almost excited if we bought him. Yeah,
Can't have that, Kev.
I often say that, but yeah.
It was a betting offence, wasn't it? That it was the
yes.
big wrong thing.
Yeah.
Actually, and I think it was only. I mean, he was betting. I mean, he's actually. I was just googling now. Actually, he's got a diagnosed betting addiction. And there was no suggestion of match fixing or anything like that. It was just kind of, and obviously they're not allowed to bet, but and he breached the rules. But
and can you have a diagnosed chocolate addiction? Because I think that might be me.
Probably, yeah. I think I'd be in that as well. Yeah.
You mentioned, Dave, to me before the show that we are looking at an extraordinarily kind of condensed Premier League table right now. We're sitting in fifth, but the points. I mean, it's nothing.
It's crazy. From third to 13th is 5 points. From I think Chelsea all the way down to I can't remember who was the 13th place. It's and even a little bit broader than that. It's absolutely kind of crazy. 1 or 2 weeks and it can all switch around. And Man City are maybe tearing away with Arsenal at the top, I suppose, apart from Chelsea. But even then, it's only another 2 points above Chelsea. It's crazy. It
does look a bit, Julie, as though Man City are starting to fire at the moment, doesn't it? I mean, I know it would give you huge pleasure to see Arsenal finish second, but they've sort of become Arsenal, this sort of very dour, steady, slightly unexciting team, but it's working, isn't it? And I just wonder whether that's what Thomas Frank is aiming to do with us. We're not a flair team.
Who's becoming the dour, steady team?
Arsenal.
The arse. Yeah, but I mean, they've never been exciting, have they? And as you say, could you bear it if we became like the arse and, success ensued?
Yeah.
Yes, I could. I don't know. I don't think that's what Thomas Frank is doing. I think he's just sort of making the best of what he's got at the moment. And, you know, he's still finding out what he's got. I was beginning to lose faith in him, but for some reason over the last week, probably kind of softened by that marvellous goal of Micky's and feeling in a much better mood, I was thinking, well, you know, let's give him a break. Yeah, he's been dealt a bit of a hand. You know, as you say, you know, it's that ex-injuries is massive. I mean, Brentford wasn't a team like Arsenal, was it?
A lot of big blokes getting, you know, kind of bullying, and they weren't a flair team, were they? But I mean,
No.
in the end, you know, a manager, he's inherited most of the squad, Kev, and you know, he's only had a handful of games. I mean, the bottom line is he's been without Kulu, he's been without Maddison, he's been without Solanke. Now going to out without Mwani. And so to a large extent, he's got to make sure we don't get rolled over. And we haven't really been rolled over. We just don't look very thrilling right now. And I don't think that's entirely down to his tactical decisions. But, you know, we vacillate, don't we, because we're fickle. And we say Thomas Frank out. And then the next minute, Frank in. Where are you right now on what he's up to?
I mean, definitely Frank in still. I think it's madness to even consider him going at the moment. But I think like we've said before, he's made some mistakes, and it was interesting that his substitutions against United sort of undid his mistake in the original way he set the team out. And so there's an example there of him doing something wrong and then putting it right, I think. But I find the sort of the dourness and the lack of creativity, even allowing for all those injuries, I find it hard to watch sometimes. And I find struggling against pretty mediocre teams. Chelsea, you know, they've got some decent players, but they're not great. Man United most certainly aren't great. And to struggle against teams like that, that's what I find difficult. I think if we were hammered by City or a Liverpool from last year or a Chelsea from 4 or 5 years ago, I'd sort of be all right with that. You sort of think, because we would be doing something positive and creative, you know, and we were just getting beaten by a better team. And at the moment, we should have beaten United. We should have certainly played far better against Chelsea. And yes, it's right about the injuries, but I think we can still do more. I think we can be more energetic, more creative. And that's about setting the team out right in the first place, I think.
The one that struck me as well is when Romero's playing, a lot goes through him, actually. He's kind of like, well, we've fallen back, so to speak, on him as this quarterback kind of thing, or whatever it's meant to be, where he's trying to find the little, you know, the kind of line-breaking pass, I think they call it, don't they, nowadays? Mm-hmm. Used to just be a pass, but anyway, that kind of pass.
You mentioned Romero there. He was getting some stick. I don't know whether it was from the esteemed football brain of Jamie O'Hara or even more esteemed football brain of Jason Cundy. Someone was giving him stick and saying that his performance against United was poor, gave the ball away a few times, which he certainly did, and that he dallies on the ball, which I've talked about, and that, you know, for one of the goals, he didn't even bother, you know, sort of jogging back. I don't know with Romero. He's another one of those players, Julie, isn't he? That we know he's uber gifted and he's hard and he's quick and he's got all the qualities to be the best centre-back in the world, probably. Yet sometimes he's kind of worryingly fallible.
I think he had 1.5 eyes on going back to Argentina to play for his national team. That's been on his mind for the last, couple of weeks. Don't think his heart has been quite in it. I don't think he's really been concentrating. He's not the...
But he's the captain. He's the captain.
I know. I mean, I'm not, you know, sticking up for him. It was just an observation that he just didn't seem to be on the case the way he can be. Maybe that's why Porro works so hard to compensate, you know, as the ersatz captain, something like that. I don't know. I haven't been very impressed with Romero the last 2-3 weeks.
No. This is the thing I was just saying a little earlier, as I alluded to this, you know, we are the ex-injuries team. Talking about who started the match and who came on to rescue the match. You know, why didn't they start? Well, you know, we're all clever after the event. I wonder whether Udogie isn't quite fit enough or considered fit enough. He must know what the data looks like, and therefore he couldn't start him because he started against Copenhagen.
Well, also there was the sort of being held at gunpoint thing, wasn't there?
Exactly. So he might well have been a bit shaken up, and so. But, it was so marked, wasn't it? Although I thought Simmons was tremendous, when he went off, no one was very happy in the stadium for sure. Yet Odebeer came on and really did change the game and tell as well. So maybe Frank absolutely got it right, because if they'd started and Udogie had started as well, maybe we would have struggled to contain United earlier on.
Yeah, absolutely. Udogie, I mean, that was a terrible incident, wasn't it, in Barnet, actually, up where my dad lives up that way. Yeah, awful business. Seems, I mean, that would really shake him up. He was with a relative as well. But no, he's lovely. He's a lovely player, isn't he, Udogie? I don't have anything bad to say about him at all, actually. We're talking of, again, players
such a good player.
Yeah.
Incidentally, when he was injured, he walked into the ground as I was walking into the ground. I can't think which match it was earlier this season, and all the fans spotted him, and I just thought, he is fucking huge, and he's a mountain of a man. Yet he's quick and he's delicate with his feet, and Christ, I wouldn't want to run into him. Look, Kev, moving on from specifics of our football team, people who sit near us. Now, a little while ago, you were telling us about somebody who was a persistent pain in the arse nearby and seemed to have disappeared, but am I right in thinking he's come back?
Well, yeah, either him or someone very like him. And this was a few years ago, the old White Hart Lane bloke behind us who would be just stuck. That's one of the problems, isn't it, with a season ticket? You're stuck with the people behind you. And the only thing he ever said was options. Give him options. He needs options. And he would shout this constantly, whether there were any options or whether whoever had the ball needed options. It just drove me mad. And then we moved to Wembley, and then I heard him quite near us, and it was definitely the same bloke. And I thought, oh God, he's just following me now. It's just bugging me. And then everything's been fine for a couple of years back at the new stadium, and now there's a bloke right behind me, and that's all he was shouting. And I don't know whether it's the same. It can't be the same man. But then I was thinking, the thing is, he's right. He's absolutely right, because our players are not giving the man on the ball options at all. So I think I'm going to become another options man. I've decided next home match, I'm going to start shouting.
It's been a slow dawning for you, Kev, but options man, turns out he's got it all sewn up. I used to have a guy back in the good old days, and I'm sure all of you remember the guy who always used to say, "Get rid of it." It didn't matter who was on the ball. It could be Martin Peters. It could be Chivers. It could be a really skillful, creative footballer, and he'd just say, "Get rid of it." There are a lot of intellectual giants who sit among us over the years.
If Kev's going to become the options man, then I must say that I'm going to become the get rid of it man, because I feel like that a lot of the time when they're dinking around with the ball at the back, and I'm like, get rid of it. And it doesn't matter who it is. It's just like, put it in Rose Egg, because they're not going to score from there. And so, yeah, I can sympathise with this. We're all one step away from these kind of terrible traps.
We are. Well, of course, the thing is that, the idea of playing out has become de rigueur, hasn't it? Everyone's got to play out. And whenever we play out, we end up giving away a corner, a goal, getting ourselves under desperate pressure. And so, I'm the guy but I never shout it out. I just go, just lump it up there. Or, the other one, Julie, put it in the mixer.
I remember that so well. It was lovely.
Yeah.
I'm overtaken with nostalgia now. When I first started reporting football, for some reason I kept getting sent to Stamford Bridge, and there was a bloke, not in the press box, but very close to me, who always shouted, "Too casual, Osgood." And that was the line, "Too casual." And it was always Osgood. And when Osgood didn't play, it must have been terrible for him. And I get really tempted these days sometimes when somebody's dwelling on the ball to shout, Too casual, Madison. So I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd be that
I'd
person. I would.
be quite apposite quite a lot of the time. There was a guy who used to sit near me, an old guy called Sam. His name was Sam, who didn't understand football at all. I don't think he understood anything, in fairness. And John Pratt, and it was him. It was he. He booted one. He took a shot and it went flying over the bar, flying over the centre of the bar. And he shouted out, Sam shouted out, "It's a try!" And I just thought, yeah, I can see what you're driving at. So, trying to conflate the kicking it over a bar with rugby. And I hear you, but you're so fucking stupid. And the beauty of it was that he made this remark and then looked around to sort of garner applause and praise. So bless him. That was Sam, probably long dead now. Moving on, I've got a real problem with this, Kev. When we start singing Champions of Europe, we know who we are. Look, I mean, for fuck's sake, come on. Get a grip, Spurs fans.
Yeah, I mean, the West Ham fans did it when they won the tiny little cup that they won, didn't they? They were singing that. And I always hoped that it was sort of ironic and, we're having a bit of a laugh. And that's what I'm hoping our fans are doing with this one. I sort of understood it against United because we wanted to mock them for the final and stuff. But yeah, it's because we're not, are we? We're not champions of Europe. And you're right. It's no, I don't like it.
As you say, it just makes us look a bit stupid and desperate. But I get, we've waited 17 years for something to sing about. So I guess it has I can see where its origins lie. Dave, I don't know if you're into chanting and songs and stuff. Are there any that get on your nerves?
No, not too much, but I definitely agree with you about that one. I think, that should be put to bed and stop it, as they say. I mean, after the Man United game, roll it out for them. For a season or two to rub their noses in it, that's obviously appropriate. But after that, it has to go. Surely, it has to go. Embarrassing.
It is embarrassing. Julie, let's move on a little bit now because we've got the international break, and I know we're all excited about that. I think England are playing somebody on Thursday, and then somebody else after that. So we were all quite tuned in to that and focused, or maybe it's Friday they're playing. Anyway, whenever they're playing, they are playing. We've got Jed, haven't we? Got Jed Spence doing his thing in the England squad, and of course Jordan Henderson, which always fills me with joy. Tremendous player. But after the international break, we have. I know this is a fair way off, and we'll talk about it in more detail next week. But we've got Arsenal, who finally stumbled against Sunderland the other day. I think they're on the slide, and I think we're on the up. What's your feeling?
I wouldn't say that Arsenal are on the slide quite, but I do have this feeling that we're going to beat them. I don't know where that feeling's come from. I'm, just, as I say, I'm drugged.
It's the drugs, isn't it? Yeah.
The drug. But I think, what if we weren't so kind of craven about playing Arsenal? What if we did have a bit of optimism, especially, we've got no strikers.
But there's half a chance, isn't there, that there's half a chance that Solanke will be back?
Yeah. I don't know. I just got a funny feeling that it's not over till it's over, as they say. I don't know how relevant that is at all. But I get so fed up with myself, actually, kind of being frightened because we're about to play Arsenal. I mean, Arsenal, what are they really? They're just a boring load of people who nicked our territory. Their manager is absolutely bonkers and a nauseating, obnoxious person to boot, and he's got a stupid haircut. Oh, it's a shame that Declan Rice plays for them because he's lovely. But apart from that,
it's going to ruin that whole weekend. It's going to ruin that whole weekend. 16:30 on the Sunday. Oof. I think I'm just going to immerse myself in a vat of wine from Friday evening until sundown on Sunday and beyond. It's going to be there's going to be a lot of wine that weekend.
It was a shame that Sunderland did so well against them, because now it's going to be embarrassing if we fuck up, isn't it? Because Sunderland, newly promoted Sunderland, held them to a draw. So who are we? What are we if we can't do better than that. That's
Well,
what
on the upside, yeah, I'm on the upside, Kevin. It's away. Not very far away, but it's away.
Yes, yes. I mean, I don't know. I'm sort of partly with Julie on this, but I just don't want to say it. That, you know, I don't want to predict that we're going to, you know, that we might well beat them, because that would be such a stupid thing to say. I think they're not a great team. If they win it this year, you know, they'll be the best of a bad lot, really. At our very best, and their average dull Arsenal like. But I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I don't know what I'm saying because I've just got excited. Just got excited about the possibility of beating Arsenal and making up that time that we lost 5-0 at home and Liam Brady scored, and I've never forgiven them for that. I was 14 years or something.
You have. I've said this before. You're kind of you're the unexpected optimist of our crew, because you genuinely think we're going to beat Arsenal, whereas I think no, yeah, not a chance. And then if we do, it's great. You know, then everything, you know, my whole life changes. Come on, I'm not going to forecast that. Dave, you know, it's a toughie, isn't it? But it does kind of refers to your point that you made earlier about the tightness of the league. Is it the case, do you think, that there just aren't, and I'm including Arsenal in this, there just aren't any really good teams at the moment showing up? I mean, Liverpool sliding, City maybe back in the hunt again.
Absolutely. And like, please God, if we could beat them, then that the whole league's then really wide open again, isn't it? It might be a game to give Kinski a go under the high ball. Julie's man Declan is going to be spinning the ball onto the sort of each post at every corner and every free kick, isn't he? And that fills me with dread, really.
Well, we need a performance like, God, I can't remember who it was against now. Kev, help me out here. When Danso made 18 clearances, who was that against? Gone out my head.
Yeah, it's gone out of my head too.
Yeah. But we need that kind of performance where everything that gets flung into our box just gets headed away. And, you know, it's not impossible, is it? We talk about Kinski, but I mean, realistically, Vicario's going to play. And you do worry a little bit that, you know, that old bullying thing, Arsenal are probably the arch bulliers, and that he's going to come under intense pressure.
Exactly that. But you never know. You never know.
And as
you say, Solanke fit again. Well, but we've been promised that for a little while, haven't we? So
yes, yeah. I mean, to me, this is one for, you know, putting out our absolutely best team. Get Doggy in at left back, for crying out loud. Get Odebear playing out on the left because he seems to have found his feet. Julie, you might know this ex-injury stat. Is Bergvall going to be fit and available for selection for that match?
I don't recall seeing his name in the about to come back list, but surely, I mean, he didn't get much of a knock, did he? It was concussion, wasn't he? So he should be fit to face Arsenal.
Don't they grade the level of concussion, Kevin, and then depending on that, that determines how long you're going to be out?
I thought I read that it was 2 weeks. There's like a sort of compulsory 2 weeks out, you know, after that kind of concussion, which should mean he's easily going to be back in time. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Because I feel like, as I felt against Chelsea when he obviously went off after 6 or 7 minutes, that the Arsenal game is made for Bergvall.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a better player than Sarr for that kind of performance. I think he's high energy. He's gets in people's faces and nothing. He's undaunted. I like the fact that he doesn't let things affect him. He's 19, but he plays like he's 29. He doesn't care who the opposition is, Dave.
Exactly. Yeah. No, he needs to be there, and hopefully a bit rested. Hopefully we'll withdraw him from Sweden's squad or whatever, and he'll be sitting with his feet up or whatever professional footballers do nowadays.
Well, the other player we haven't talked about, and again, we expect him to be back for that match, of course, Julie, is Kudus, who not been mentioned at all in the light of the match against Man United. Yeah, can I just imagine having him, I hate to say this, but having him playing the match instead of Brennan Johnson.
Yep. I mean, I've got nothing against Brennan Johnson. I still think he is good at what he does, but he only does one thing. Kudus definitely would be a plus, because I think we did miss him. I don't know what the severity of his injury was.
They've withdrawn him. They've withdrawn him from the international squad. So that means he's staying home, resting up, and getting fit. So that's
Good.
a good sign.
Yeah, that's what
But
I
there is
like.
a danger with that, isn't there? That we then revert to, let's give every ball to Kudus, which is not really a tactic, is it, Kev?
No, it's not. I mean, I don't know what if I were Frank, how would I set us up against Arsenal? And I think, do you go physical? Do you start with the old double pivot, and do you just try and shut them down, or do you really go for it and just attack? And I think my temptation would be to attack, not in a completely mad way, but I think to really put the pressure on them. I'm not sure many teams do that, because I think they back off because they're frightened, because it's Arsenal and they've got one or two okay players. But I think the only way to win is to really set out to win, not to try and scrape a draw.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. I think you've got to take it two teams, and I think we're capable of it. We've got some pace, we've got some power, some strength, and I think if Solanke's back, that changes the dynamic completely. Everything changes for us. Anyway, we'll worry about that next week. We'll put some more thought into that and see if we can come up with some firm predictions. So we're at the end. Has anyone got any other business? Anything else they want to raise before we say goodbye?
I just wanted to say that what we thought was the winning goal against United, that's the most excited I've felt for a long time watching us, since the final, I think. And it was almost my immediate thought was, this will take us into the Arsenal game in really good stead psychologically, being beaten United, and I'm hoping that actually that hasn't just wrecked, the sort of motivation of the players and their confidence, that draw. But yeah, I think it's such a shame, for so many reasons, that we didn't win that, but we didn't lose it.
I know what you mean, because it felt like a defining moment. We've come from nowhere and we've shown the grit and determination, and we've come back, and that's going to set us on the right track for the rest of the season. Then, of course, we Spurs it up. Julie, you had something else to add?
I hesitate to talk about it because I don't want to prejudice things, but have you noticed that Eze hasn't exactly set the house on fire, has he, since he joined the other lot down the road?
You see, you've now absolutely made it cast iron certainty that he's going to score against us, right? That's what's going to happen. See what you did?
Yeah.
What a mess you've made of that. I'm going to edit that out. I'm editing that out because
but
it's...
actually the alternative is Simmons scores his first goal for Spurs. Whatever.
Yes,
whatever
I like that version better.
Simmons, that's Eze or Simmons.
Okay, well, that's the little play within a play that we'll be keeping our eyes peeled for. We'll talk about Arsenal and loads of other things next week. My thanks go to Kevin Acott, Julie Welch, and, of course, Dave Bradshaw. We'll have Dave back in a few weeks' time. I'm Simon Lipson. Don't forget to give us a follow on X. We are at Nice One Cyril Pod, and we've got a Facebook page, Instagram, all that malarkey. So get involved. And if you want to listen to this and never miss it ever again, or why not subscribe over on Spotify, Apple Podcast, all the rest of them. We'll be back next week. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.